Hey, no more parties on the street, right? You got a house on the corner? No more, right? Yeah. Wedding was nice.
Township of Edison Zoning Board of Adjustment regular meeting of November 21st, 2023 is now in session. Adequate notice of this meeting as required by the Open Public Meetings Act of 1975 has been provided by the annual notice published in the Home News and Tribune on January 14th, 2023, has been posted in the main lobby of the municipal complex on January 3rd, 2023. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Mr. Carley? Here. Mr. Bignell? Here. Ms. Shaw? Here. Mr. Ayotte?
Here.
Mr. Chabra?
Here.
Mr. Cerrito?
Here.
Ms. Hernandez-Prince?
Here.
Mr. DeVay?
Here.
Mr. Sadaha?
Here.
Vice Chair O'Gorman?
Here.
Chairman Kumba?
Here. Two announcements. Case number 2 on the agenda, case Z29, 2023, Tuan Nguyen at 23 Schuyler Drive. There was improper noticing, so it's been carried to a future date. New notice would be required to all required noticers. Case number 4 on the agenda, case Z36, 2022, Tivid Lane LLC. The applicant is adjourning this matter to December 19th, 2023. If you are here for that case, that will be carried to December 19th, 2023. This is your notice. There will be no additional notice with regard to that case. Madam Secretary, we have minutes for consideration.
We have October 24th, 2023 minutes for approval.
Motion to approve the minutes from October 24th, 2023.
Second.
Motion made by Vice Chairman O'Gorman, seconded by Mr. Sadata. Roll call, please.
Mr. Chabra?
Yes to the motion.
Mr. Cerrito?
Yes on the motion.
Ms. Hernandez-Prince?
Yes to the motion.
Mr. DeVay?
Yes to the motion.
Mr. Sadaha?
Yes to the motion.
Vice Chair O'Gorman?
Yes.
Chairman Kumba?
Yes on the motion. And then, Madam Secretary, resolutions to be adopted.
First resolution to be adopted is Z23, 2023, Virhan Shah.
Motion to approve Z23-2023.
Second.
Motion made by Vice Chairman O'Gorman, seconded by Mr. Sadata. Roll call, please.
Mr. Chabra?
Yes to the motion.
Mr. Cerrito?
Yes on the motion.
Ms. Hernandez-Prince?
Yes to the motion.
Mr. DeVay?
Yes to the motion.
Vice Chair O'Gorman?
Yes.
And Chairman Kumba?
Yes on the motion. And the final resolution to be adopted?
Z25, 2023, Jonathan and Joanne Sudem.
Motion to approve Z25-2023.
Second.
Motion made by Vice Chairman O'Gorman, seconded by Mr. Sadata. Roll call, please.
Mr. Chabra?
Yes to the motion.
Mr. Cerrito?
Yes on the motion.
Ms. Hernandez-Prince?
Yes to the motion.
Mr. DeVay?
Yes on the motion.
Vice Chair O'Gorman?
Yes.
And
Yes.
Chairman Kumba?
Yes on the motion. Thank you very much, Madam Secretary.
Thank
Good
you.
evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is a regular meeting of the Township of Edison Zoning Board of Adjustment. This board is composed of Edison Township residents appointed by the Municipal Council who volunteer their time and service to the board. The municipal land use law requires that members successfully complete a land use training course administered by the New Jersey Department of Community Affairs. This board also holds in-house training conducted by our board professionals. The zoning board abides by the provisions of municipal land use law in addition to our board's bylaws. The zoning board is a quasi-judicial land use board, which differs from the township planning board. Under the municipal land use law, board members are required to be impartial and are not allowed to discuss any case prior to its consideration before the board at a hearing. All applicants will have the opportunity to present their case before the board, with the opportunity for board members and board professionals to question the applicant and their witnesses. At the conclusion of the applicant's presentation of their case, the case will be open to the public. Residents within 200 feet of the subject property will be heard, followed by residents from outside of 200 feet. All residents will be sworn in. They'll provide their name and address, and they'll be given 6 minutes to comment on the application being considered without the opportunity for a rebuttal. Residents may ask questions of the applicant's professionals and board professionals. The board requests that these questions are asked prior to any comments being made on the application. Once commentary begins, the resident's timer will begin. The applicant will be allowed for the opportunity for cross-examination of their witnesses. Under the law, the chair is allowed to stop any comment that is repetitive or is an attempt to filibuster the board. Further, the chair is allowed to stop any commentary that is irrelevant to the case or prohibited from the board's consideration. Once the public portion is closed, all public comment is ended unless new testimony is presented by the applicant. Following the closure of the public portion, the applicant will have the right of summation on their application. Following summation, the case will go to the board for a decision. This procedure has been followed by the board and is similar to the procedures followed by boards of adjustment statewide. The municipal land use law requires the board to engage in a balancing act. It is not required to strictly apply township ordinances, zoning plan, or master plan. As a board of adjustment, variances are granted when appropriately necessary, following all legal considerations. As has been the case with prior boards, this board will see where we are if we are still in session around 10:30 p.m. I ask that all applicants, professionals, and residents show respect to each other and be civil throughout all proceedings. I ask that you withhold applause, booing, or interrupting of anyone while they are speaking. With that being said, Madam Secretary, first case on the agenda, please.
Case number is Z21-2023, Jada House LLC, 91 Livingston Ave. Use variance sought to construct a new single-family home. The following standards have not been met. FAR required is 0.25, proposed now is 0.28. Affected property is located in the RA zone, designated as block number 546.22, lot 5 on the Edison Township tax map. All noticing paperwork is in order.
Good evening, Mr. Wine.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Benjamin Wine on behalf of the applicant, Jada House LLC. First off, happy early holidays to everybody, and I appreciate you taking the time to be here this evening. If you recall, we were here last month with this very application to construct a single-family residence on the property located at 91 Livingston Avenue. That's block 546.22, lot 5. We took the opportunity that evening, after hearing a little bit of feedback from the board, to take the time, to take the month to go back, take a look at some potential options for our project, and ultimately come back here before you this evening with what we hope you will believe and agree with is a good application and one for a floor area ratio variance that can be granted. Just without getting too repetitive, by way of brief background, we still comply with all of the bulk requirements with respect to setbacks, coverages, height. In fact, we are now not even maxing out a single one of those bulk requirements. We are substantially under on each one of them. We do still have the floor area ratio variance, which is why we're before you, rather than submitting straight for a building permit. The requirement for this particular zone, as stated before, is 0.25. We were previously here seeking just shy of 0.31, so about a 0.06 over, and we are now here seeking 0.287, I believe, which is just shy of 0.29, and therefore we are 0.04 or thereabouts over the limit. You'll hear this evening from our project architect as well as from our project planner. What I'd like is for our architect to walk you through what those revisions have been since the last meeting. Specifically, he was able to shave off certain floor area that resulted in the reduction. And then ultimately, I would like for our planner as well to go over the proofs for the variance. Without getting too into it, as I know our planner is going to get into it, just very simply, the justification for the grant of a floor area ratio variance pursuant to the Randolph Town Center case is whether the site can accommodate the additional floor area. It is our position, and we hope you'll agree with us, that given the fact that we can comply with all of the bulk requirements and are substantially less than all of the bulk requirements, that, as I said, you'll agree that the site can, in fact, accommodate the additional floor area. I'll just put on the record that we are an undersized lot. I think I brought that up last time. We're approximately 75% of the required lot, the minimum required lot area, where we are 15,700 square feet, and 20,000 is contemplated within your zone. That very fact underlies a portion of the basis for our requested relief, but again, you'll hear more in detail from our planner. So, Mr. Chair, members of the board, unless you have any questions of me, I'd like to proceed with my actual experts.
Does the board have any questions for Mr. Wine? Mr. Dave?
have
Mr.
the-
Dave, if you just bring the microphone.
Do we have the calculation sheet for the new FAR?
I don't know if there's a new calculation sheet, but I can tell you it's, and you'll hear from our architect based on the floor area, that it should be 0.287.
It was 0.305 before, now it's 0.28.
0.28. If you'd like to round, I would round up to
Do you
0.29.
have that on the calculation sheet or no?
I don't believe we submitted a new calculation sheet. Simply new plans are what were submitted.
Okay.
Mr. Dave, I believe it was on the plan table.
Okay.
Okay. All right, thank you.
They would submit that afterwards.
Okay, counsel, you can proceed.
All right, perfect. So with that, my first witness is Nihal Javeri, our project architect.
Mr. Javeri, would you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And state your full name for the record.
Yeah. My first name is Nehal, Nehal. Last name is Zaveri, Jhaveri. V as in Victor. ERI.
And Mr. Javeri, you were qualified in the last hearing. Your license are still current and good standing?
Yes, sir.
All right, we'll accept you again. You may proceed. Thank you.
And just to confirm, I believe he's still under oath. Is that correct?
He was just sworn.
Yeah.
Fair enough. All right, so Nehal, I believe you've set up your plans over there. If you can walk the board through what changes have been made and where the current project stands. Okay.
Good evening. The house is still 6 bedrooms, 7 bathrooms, 2-story house that we had before. We have about 200 square feet less than what we had, again, initially, the last time what we have. We were able to shave off. Do you want me to walk you through the plan again, or it's pretty much the same thing as last time? So the number of bedrooms are the same, the number of bathrooms are the same. We shaved off a couple of square feetage from the front and from the back. So starting from the front, I would say on the first floor and the second floor, the front is moved back, shaved off about a foot. Same thing in the back. We shaved off about a foot from the back. And on the side, we used to have roughly about 2 feet or so, 2.5 feet of overhang area that was protruding out on the right side, that we pushed it back in line with the house. We also shaved off a space from the living room, which was larger. Now it's about 13 feet only. Also from the kitchen area, which was larger, and we made it smaller. So altogether, we were able to get to, keeping the same requirement from the client, we were able to get to, something reduction of 200 square feet. Now again, most of the bedrooms are about 13 by 14, 12 by 14 size. So they are not overly, larger in any case. So with the furniture and all that, what you can see in there, it's just about adequate for the size of the house and also for the family and growing kids.
Sure, and Nehal, just a couple of follow-up questions. One specifically, I believe there was a comment, I think it was Mr. Dave the last time, I apologize if it was not, regarding just to confirm that there would be no additional dwelling unit in the basement. That has not changed, is that correct?
Absolutely not.
So there would still be no additional dwelling unit in the basement?
No.
Okay, perfect. And then just in terms of shaving off, I think you talked about the front and the rear. You also discussed the kitchen, I believe as well on the right-hand side of the property. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so just to confirm, as I said in my opening, I just want to have you testify to it as the expert under oath. We are still compliant with all of the other bulk requirements with the exception of the floor area ratio. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Right.
Okay. All right, so Mr. Chair and members of the board, that's really what I intended to elicit from Mr. Javeri. Certainly, if you'd like him to walk through the floor plans in more detail as he did last time, he can definitely do that.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions for Mr. Javeri?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Dave?
So I just want you to confirm what's the new square feet for the first floor?
It's, total is 4,521 square feet.
What's the first floor? You had 2570 before.
Sorry, 2477.
That's what you had 2470 before.
No. I think it was more.
In the microphone,
5
please.
something.
And then your second floor, 2150 you had. and garage is 441, you're altogether 4720. That's why I asked you guys, how did you come up with the FAR calculations?
Right, so we added the first floor and the second floor for FAR calculations, and that's where we came up with the 4521 square feet.
Can I see where you guys cut back?
Well, that's what I'm saying. We shaved off from the first floor, the front area. We pushed it back, so this length is shorter. We pushed back this bedroom that we had in the back, pushed it back, and we took out the extension that was here. We pushed it back there.
I get all of that. Just get me how do you come up with the first floor, second floor? Your garage probably remains same, and what's your new square foot for the total floor area?
I'm sorry?
What's the total floor area for the square foot now for the reduced home?
4521 is the total square footage. So first floor is 2477, and second floor is 2045.
Thank you. And garage remains same 441, correct?
Garage is, yes, it's the floor below.
And your new FAR became what?
0.287.
Okay. And nothing else changed?
No.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, the building exterior pretty much remained the same character.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Dave. Does anyone else have any questions for Mr. Javeri? Okay, seeing none. Thank you, Mr. Javeri.
Thank you. I should just follow up and just quickly confirm what you showed tonight was in fact submitted more than 10 days in advance. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Just so that we don't have to
including
mark
the
anything.
renderings. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Javeri. So my next and final witness this evening would be Mr. Flynn, who was also here last month.
Mr. Flynn, would you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And please state your full name for the record.
Sure, Matthew Flynn, Flynn.
Okay. And Matt, you were qualified last month, but Mr. Chair, would you like to hear Mr. Flynn's
You
qualifications
don't have
again?
to give your qualifications, but your licenses are still current and good standing?
They are.
Okay, we'll accept you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So Matt, obviously, you were integral in going through the revisions with our project team over the course of the last few weeks. So, I understand your testimony is already on the record with respect to the prior portion of the application, but if you can walk the board again through what we're dealing with in terms of variance relief and our request, as well as justification therefore, that would be great.
Sure. So as this board knows, we were here last month for a slightly larger FAR variance. We have chopped off 200 square feet off the original application. So we are looking at a pretty significant reduction in FAR, in my opinion. Basically, after the prior application, or after the prior hearing, the first thing I did was I just wanted to double check the case law, what the statutory criteria is for a D4 FAR variance. And so we have to look at the Randolph Town Center case, which is applied for these D4 FAR variances. It's a site-specific test that's set forth in that case law, and the test is whether the site itself can accommodate the proposed FAR that we're proposing. Basically, the testimony from the last hearing was that we are in compliance with setbacks, building height, coverage, and the like. So the massing of the building itself actually does comply. And I think that demonstrates that the site can easily accommodate the proposed FAR in that we do not anticipate any substantial negative impacts to our neighbors or to the community. I spoke about compatibility at the last hearing, and when I refer to compatibility, I'm really talking about is the building going to stand out when we look at it in comparison to the other buildings in the area. And again, in terms of setbacks, that's really that measurement of it effectively measures building to building separation, so that space between buildings. That's something that we can physically see. We can also physically see building height, obviously. Again, both of those requirements are in compliance. FAR really is just a mathematical number. Basically, it's an interior measurement of how the interior of the building is designed. In other words, FAR could be cut back even more by getting rid of a ceiling in the building and having higher ceilings, and that would not be something that you could actually visibly see from the street. So what you do see is building to building separation, building height, and the like. Also, lot coverage is in compliance. So again, light, air, open space, all of that is not going to be negatively impacted for all of those reasons. As council mentioned, this is an undersized lot, which I mentioned at the last hearing. So this applicant is trying to strike a balance between what's appropriate for the client himself, what's appropriate per zoning, and what fits on the lot. And we think that what we have here, cutting back even further from the last hearing, is certainly appropriate. The FAR mechanism does allow this board to get a crack at the application, make sure that the design works. And again, in this case, I think that the design elements are built into the zoning ordinance. Again, setbacks, height, coverage, all of that speaks to the fact that this is not going to negatively impact our neighbors here. And again, the massing itself is in compliance here. Again, FAR is really an interior requirement. So when I speak about compatibility, really, FAR is not something that we see from the ground in relation to, as compared to some of these other requirements that we're in compliance with. So just to remind the board, again, we are looking at a FAR variance of 0.287, whereas 0.25 is allowed. At the last hearing, we were at about 0.31. So we have reduced substantially by knocking off that 200 square feet of building area. I walked the board through, and I'll just go through again quickly. The positive criteria, again, we're providing a permitted use in the zone, providing for promoting the planning goal for providing a variety of housing types to meet the needs of all New Jersey residents. This is not the only applicant that is going to have a family of this size. So this is something that is going to, again, provide that variety for homeowners like the applicant. Providing a beautiful new building. I think that we can see from the renderings here that this is going to be an attractive building that's going to add to the value and quality of the neighborhood. Again, compatibility, I think I spoke to that. We're not going to see a building that's too close to any other buildings. We're not going to see a building that's too high in relation to other buildings. So again, I think that there's compatibility in that regard. We're proposing new trees. So I think all in all, this is going to be a positive and aesthetically pleasing development. All of that promotes purposes of the municipal land use law, including Purpose A, promotion of the general welfare, Purpose G, variety of uses in appropriate locations, Purpose I, desirable visual environment, and Purpose M, efficient use of land. The flip side to that is the negative criteria. Again, no substantial detriment to the public or to the zone plan. Again, the test for this FAR variance is site specific. Can this specific site accommodate the proposed FAR? I think there's adequate testimony at this point that it does. I don't think that there's any real issues that have been left unaddressed in terms of negative impacts to our neighbors or to the zone. Again, despite the FAR variance, this is actually a smaller zone, seeing that this is an undersized lot. This is an undersized house per zoning. It was at the last hearing, and we reduced it even further. And again, substantial compliance from a bulk standpoint. I think I can leave it at that. I know that I'm at this point repeating what I went through at the last hearing, unless Mr. Wine has anything else.
Yeah, sure, Matt. I thank you for doing that, and I know it's always helpful to go through it when it's been a month in between. So, Mr. Chair, members of the board, again, I'll turn it over to you unless you have any further testimony you'd like to elicit from Mr. Flynn.
Does the board have any questions for Mr. Flynn?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I have a question for Mr. Flynn. Last time I'd requested to hear the surrounding houses and their square footages and their FAR values. Do you have anything to provide from the tax records?
Yeah, so my office does have a subscription to a service that provides what they say is livable areas. That's the term that's given in this service here. We have found that occasionally we are able to get what's called property record cards, which gives us actually building each room. It'll give us a calculation of the square footage of each room, so we're able to calculate floor area ratio. In this case, sometimes we're able to get, like I said at the last hearing, sometimes this is information we can get, sometimes it's not available. I was able to get some numbers for the surrounding properties, albeit they are smaller in terms of a building footprint standpoint. However, again, the test is site specific, and again, if we were to start chopping ceilings or something inside of our building, the actual massing complies, so I don't think it's relevant in this case to start comparing FARs, even if that information were available.
Okay, so the reason I'm asking, it's a 7-bathroom, 6-bedroom house. So given that the FAR that you're requesting is 20% more than that zone, given the understanding the fact that it's a smaller lot, I'm just curious to see if that type of house fits that neighborhood, or what the directly surrounding neighborhood footprints, even if we could compare footprints, where does this house's footprint of 2477 stand in comparison to those?
The footprint itself, I'm looking at the numbers right now, and it would fit in with the surrounding building footprints.
Okay, just the nearby ones, what are they in the range of?
On this block itself, I'm seeing one that's 2,378 square feet, another one that's 2,378 square feet.
Square feet or footprint? It's the footprint.
This is footprint.
Okay.
Yeah. And again, I say that with a grain of salt because this actually typically would not take into account garage space. So typically these numbers would actually be even greater in reality. I'm seeing one that's 3,000 square feet. So again, substantially similar to what's going on around us.
Okay.
But for the majority of those, they're single-story buildings.
Okay. Sounds good.
Anyone else on the board have any questions for Mr. Flynn? Seeing none. Thank you, Mr. Flynn.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Wine.
Sure. So, Mr. Chair, I'll certainly reserve my right to sum up if there's any members of the public who'd like to speak, and we can address that. But otherwise, at this point, I have concluded my case in chief.
Great. So we will now go out to the public. So anyone within 200 feet of the subject site wanting to be heard, if you're within 200 feet, you've received a notice via certified mail. Seeing none, we'll go outside of 200 feet. Seeing none.
Motion to close the public session.
Motion made by Vice Chairman O'Gorman.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Sadata. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nay. The ayes have it. Public portion is now closed. Mr. Wine, do you have any summation?
Sure. So again, I want to take the opportunity, I'm not going to belabor the point, but to thank the board for hearing us between the October and then this meeting here this evening. I think having the few weeks in between did give us the opportunity to take another crack at the application. Obviously, we're here representing our client and what he's looking for in his house for the size of his family and his needs. But at the end of the day, working with our architect, we did have the ability to shave off just a couple hundred more square feet and to reduce that floor area ratio variance from about 0.3065 exactly, down to 0.287. So we were able to shave that off and reduce it. As you've heard from our testimony, the test is really whether or not the site can accommodate the additional floor area. I do believe, and I hope I'm correct, that we were able to satisfy the questions from the board with respect to that test. And with that, Chairman, members of the board, I would respectfully request that the board grant the application as presented.
Thank you very much. And, okay, so we will go to the board.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve this application. The applicant has met all the negative and positive criteria. The site is particularly suited for the use intended. The use is not a detriment to the public good or public safety as appropriate. There are no objectors for this application. This motion will incorporate all of the testimony of the applicant, attorney, engineers, and members of the board, as well as incorporation of all the conditions and what is to be done and not to be done at the site as was testified to. The applicant will submit the detailed FAR calculation as discussed.
I'd like to add that it would be a beneficial use to the neighborhood, and the FAR is .29. I second the motion.
Motion made by Mr. Dave, seconded by Vice Chairman O'Gorman. Roll call, please. Roll call, please.
It was granted at 0.28, right? Is that what it is?
0.287, 0.29.
Okay, just clarifying. Thank you. Mr. Chabra?
Yes to the motion.
Mr. Cerrito?
Yes on the motion.
Ms. Hernandez-Prince?
Yes on the motion.
Mr. DeVay?
Yes on the motion.
Mr. Sadaha?
Yes to the motion.
Vice Chair O'Gorman?
Yes.
And Chairman Gumbo?
Yes on the motion. Great.
Thank you,
Unanimous
everybody.
approval. Congratulations. Thank you so much for working with the board, and have a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you very much. You
Thank
too.
you so much.
Good luck, guys.
All right. Next case on the agenda, please.
And he rounded it. Next case.
Next case on the agenda, please.
Case Z35, 2023, Phoenix Realty and Management LLC, 651 King George Post Road. Preliminary and final site plan approval is being sought along with use and bulk variances to permit a school bus depot on the existing property. Existing commercial building is to remain. Standards have not been met in accordance with the master plan. Maximum lot area required is 80,000 square feet. Proposed is 60,199.92 square feet. Side yard setbacks, 1/both required is 40 feet / 80 feet. Proposed is 11.3 feet / 33.1 feet. Affected property is located in the LI zone designated as block number 752 / lot number 24.01 on the Edison Township tax map. All noticing paperwork is in order.
Good evening, Mr. Smith.
Mr. Chairman, Bob Smith. I'm a licensed attorney in the state of New Jersey, and I'm here tonight representing Phoenix Realty and Management LLC. I'd like to point out that what we're doing tonight is seeking from you a use variance, a preliminary and final site plan, even though we're not doing anything to the site except adding a lot more landscaping. We appeared before the board TRC committee, and at that meeting, a number of waivers were approved. And this property, just again, by way of background, the total property is 1.37 acres, and on it there is an existing structure of 5,373 square feet. That is broken down into two components. 3,975 feet is a maintenance garage, and 1,398 square feet is a roofing contractor. What we're seeking to do tonight is to allow a use variance to continue what had been a bus storage and maintenance operation for Board of Education buses. And as a matter of fact, what you'll hear tonight is that the facility, the new tenant, and we'll get into more detail, is actually the service provider for the Edison Board of Education. So, as well as some other Board of Educations. So we want to mention that this has some community involvement. But back to the waivers, when we appeared before the Technical Review Committee, 5 waivers were granted, and I just want to point them out for the record. Section 25-9.1 sub A sub B, tree replacement. The applicant is seeking a waiver from this requirement as no trees are being removed from the existing site. As I said, this is an as-is. We're not doing a thing to the site other than more trees. Number 2, section 37-4.21B, interference with pipelines. The applicant is seeking a waiver from this requirement as there's no proposed disturbance or construction taking place on the site. So that particular checklist item is irrelevant in this case. Number 3, section 37-44.1, landscaping. The applicant has provided landscaping on the site plan to the satisfaction of the review committee. Additionally, the applicant will continue to work with the board's professional staff to determine the number of trees that can be planted on the north side of the property to provide screening to the residential dwellings. We're seeking waiver from all other landscaping requirements on an existing, absolutely existing, not to change site except for more trees. Number 4, section 37-61, lighting. The applicant accepts the suggestion of the review committee and is seeking a waiver from the lighting regulations. And then finally, number 5, in the Big Nell report, plan review comment C, the applicant is seeking a waiver from the requirement to provide information per the NJDOT access easement, as no additional changes are proposed to the ingress or egress to the site. So it's my intention tonight, Mr. Chairman, to call 2 witnesses. The first is the owner of the property, Mr. Ashok Bajwani, who's also the managing member of Phoenix Realty LLC. And then secondly, Mr. John DuPont, who will serve as our licensed professional engineer and professional planner, and I believe who's been before your board on many, many occasions. With that said, Mr. Chairman, if it's okay, I'll proceed with the case.
Does the board have any questions, Mr. Smith? Council may proceed.
Okay. The first, I'd call the owner of the property, the managing member of the LLC, Mr. Ashok Bajwani, who's seated to my left. I'd ask that he be sworn so that he can give testimony.
Mr. Bajwani, would you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God? And if you could use the microphone, just state your full name for the record and spell it, please.
Spell it too.
Ashok Bujwani,
And spell the whole name.
ASHOK BHOJWANI.
Okay. So, Mr. Bajwani, I did a little bit of an introduction, but I'd like you to confirm it. You are the owner of the property,
Yes, sir.
and you're the managing member of Phoenix Realty LLC?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And the site that, and what we're proposing tonight, the use variance, is to replace what had been a bus maintenance and storage facility with a new bus maintenance and storage facility. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And can you tell the board the name of the new tenant?
Nelvi Transit
Okay.
Incorporated.
All right. And do they serve various school systems in and around this county,
Yes, they do.
including Edison Township?
Yes, sir.
All right. Melvi, Nelvi, Transit Inc. Okay. So, in terms of that new tenant, you've asked them what kind of utilization they're going to have for the property. Can you tell the board when the bus drivers would arrive to the site?
Bus drivers do arrive at 7:30 in the morning, and they do the first pickup of the students from their homes, 7:30 to 9:30.
So I'm going to beat you up. My notes say 6:30 a.m. And we want to make sure we have it right.
Yeah, sorry. it's
6:30 a.m. So the bus drivers arrive at 6:30 a.m. And then the way the buses work, they go do whatever they're going to do, and they return at 10 a.m.?
Yes.
Okay. And then likewise, there's an afternoon where the kids are also picked up. My understanding is that they come at 3 p.m. Is that true?
1 p.m. to 4 p.m.
Okay. So they come at 1. I'm wrong on that one. And then they return at 5 p.m. On your, on the Mr. Nelvi's Transit's operation, it's my understanding they're going to have 2 mechanics. Is that true?
Yes, sir.
And total employees 1 to 3.
There's 2 mechanics, 1 helper, and 2 office people.
Okay, so there's a total of 5 employees,
Yes,
maybe. And that's from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., correct?
Correct.
Okay. So do you remember how long the prior bus maintenance operation was on that land?
This lot has been used for over 30 years by Chicaron bus service.
Okay.
Over 30 years now.
Good. And Mr. Chairman, if it's appropriate, I think we want to use your IT system. What's that? Oh, we can't get it working. Sorry. We wanted to use your IT system to put the site plan on the on your boards, but we are going to. You have the package, and we're going to provide a handout as well. So, scratch that idea. We've done the hours of operation, number of employees. Is there anything else you want to add, Mr. Bajwani?
No, sir.
Okay, Mr. Bajwani is available to the board for questions.
Does the board have any questions for Mr. Bajwani?
Mr. Chairman.
Vice Chairman?
So the hours of operation will be 6 a.m. to 5 p.m.?
No, the bus hours are from 6:30 a.m. to 9:30. They leave the bus again. They come back again at 1 p.m. for another route and return back to the base for 5 p.m.
So it's 5 p.m. for them, and for the 2 mechanics and the 2 office employees, is it 9 to 5?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, see none. Thank you.
All right, then I'd like to call my second witness, Mr. John DuPont, our professional engineer.
Mr. Chairman, before you do move
Yes, we
forward, there's just a couple concerns I have. Maybe the owner can explain. If they're going to work on buses, they're going to do it all interior to the building, right? There's not going to be any outside work on buses?
No, sir.
Say, that is correct.
So
No,
you have,
sir. Yeah, that's correct.
you have no problem with that being a condition of approval, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then, Mr. Chairman, I have no problem with the waivers that they're requesting because it is an existing facility. And buses are an inherently beneficial, school buses are considered an inherently beneficial use on a property and in a community, so that helps with their burden of proof. But my only concern is the neighbors, and as long as the site's maintained and they kind of go along with the comments in our report, I'll be satisfied. But no work outside on the property. Got to pull the buses into the building and do it inside, so there's no noise and fumes and things like that.
And that's absolutely acceptable to the applicant.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Bruno.
All right, so let me move you out, and let me ask Mr. DuPont to come forward. We also have... All right, so these are 10 by 17? 11 by 17. Exactly what was submitted in the package. Let us pass them out to the board so that they're right in front of their faces.
Okay, we appreciate that. And just for the record, Ms. Shah, this is identical to what's already been submitted. It's just in a smaller form.
Right, so we're not going to mark it.
So there's no need to mark them.
Correct.
They're already in the record.
Thank you. Mr. DuPont, would you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And just state your full name for the record.
John P. DuPont, D-U, capital P-O-N-T.
Mr. DuPont, you're here so often, I know your resume better than you do, but you just give me the, give me the elevator version.
Absolutely. So I am a licensed professional engineer as well as planner in the state of New Jersey. I served for the last 28 years in the borough of Carteret as both their board engineer and their board planner. I've been in front of this board numerous times as well as boards throughout the state.
And your license for both engineering or planning and are current in good standing?
They are.
All right, we'll accept you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. DuPont, if you would, using the miniaturized version of the package, would you describe for the board what is the site plan that's in front of them?
Certainly will. So this is 651 King George Road. It's in the LI zone. It's a 1.37 acre site that is fully developed. As you heard, it currently has a 5,373 square feet, one-story garage building on site. It also has a monopole, an existing monopole in the rear of the site. It's about 111 feet tall. The property is irregular shaped. It's approximately 100 feet wide and 615 feet in length. The property is almost completely covered with impervious coverage. It's fully developed. The north property is bordered by the Middlesex Greenway, formerly the Conrail Lehigh Valley Railroad. And the property does have frontage on King George Post Road. In addition, there is a driveway through NJDOT property to Liberty Street. The proposed conditions, as you heard also, there is an existing roofing company, which is on the portion of the building, 1,398 square feet, towards King George Road. That roofing company is going to stay in place. The remaining portion of the building, the 3,975 square feet, will become this new bus maintenance company. Again, I know we know that this currently or previously was a bus maintenance company, but this is just our applicant. We'll take that portion. In addition to that portion of the building, our applicant is proposing to stripe 12 standard school bus spaces. Those are 12 by 40 feet. They're also going to stripe 21 minibus spaces, 12 by 20 feet. In addition, there's going to be 10 employee parking stalls for our bus company, striped. So the total buses on site will be 33 in total. We are proposing some minor other site improvements. And you can see on sheet, if you look at the handout we gave you, sheet 3 of 4 is probably the best sheet to look at for a couple of the improvements. We are proposing some lighting. There's several existing poles on site to the south of the property. We're going to add more lighting fixtures there. There are a couple building mounted lights towards the rear that we're just going to update. And there's several lighting poles we're going to post along the northern side of the property. As you heard, we're asking for a waiver of the lighting requirement. We are because we don't meet the complete site requirements of the ordinance. However, everywhere where there's a parking space and or access to the building, we do have proper lighting. In addition to that, there is some landscaping proposed. There's some landscaping along, again, being a site fully developed, we took advantage where we could. Little landscaping along King George Post Road. We did some plantings out front, thought it'd make the front of the property better. Along Liberty Street, we planted a couple of trees, again, trying to enhance that. And if we could, we'd add a couple of trees along the northern side adjacent to the building. Now it's a green strip there now where that greenway is. So it's a little tight, but if we could put another tree or two there, we certainly will. And we will agree to work with the township professional staff to do any landscape improvements they think is best. The site is currently fenced in, not completely, but there's fencing. We're going to repair what fencing needs to be. We're going to complete the fencing around the property, and we're going to screen it. We're going to put green mesh screening on it, just to screen the entire property. So I think that's a big improvement. And we do have a trash enclosure proposed that wasn't there now. So as far as relief for the project, there's two things. There's 3 bulk variances that are existing today. There's a minimum lot area. The requirement is 80,000 square feet. The existing lot is 60,199 square feet, not changing. The minimum side yard setback requirement is 40 feet in the zone. The existing is 11.3 feet. Again, not changing that. And the combined side yard setback requirement is 80 feet. The existing is 33.1 feet, and we're not changing that. The only new variance we're requesting tonight is for the use. A school bus maintenance and parking facility is not specifically listed in your ordinance as a permitted use. Thereby, we need the use variance. There was a question about parking calculations, so I want to clear that up too. There's 2 ways you calculate parking in this area. The most restrictive for our case is 1 space required for every 300 square feet of space. There is 5,373 square feet, which results in 17.9, we say 18 parking spaces required. There are 10 existing for the roofing company on King George Post Road that will remain. We are proposing 10 additional behind the building by our trash enclosure. So now we have proposed 20 spaces. We exceed the requirement. We've talked about the waivers already. And if you board wishes, I could go through the 2 professional staff reports.
So for the record, you've had a chance to review the Bignell report dated November 16th, 2023?
I have.
Okay, and we agree with the report generally speaking. I would point out to the board on page 2, there's no changes to the existing bulk conditions on the site. We've indicated what waivers are appropriate, and we basically, I think, need to respond to the plan review comments that Mr. Bignell has on page 4 of the report.
That's correct.
Okay, so number 1, we will be providing to the professional staff the various approvals required, Middlesex County Planning Board, freehold soil, and any outside agencies with jurisdiction. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So number 2, the applicant should explain the roofing contractor tenant. Is it a permitted use?
It is.
All right, so that's not even under question. The applicant needs to address and submit documentation to clarify the details of the New Jersey access way, and does an easement exist, and we're going to provide that information.
That is correct.
But as Mr. Bignell pointed out, there's no change to the access in any way at this point. And number 4, will the bus storage portion of the site be paved or repaved?
We are not proposing any additional pavement. A portion of the lot is currently paved today in good condition, and the rear portion of the lot is stoned in good condition, and that will stay as such.
Okay. Item E, the applicant should provide testimony to address the adequacy of this layout for the proposed tenant. How many buses are in the operator's fleet? Can the buses be stored in a parking stall? Is storage the same during the school year as in the summer?
Yes, so we do have a total number of buses of 33. We have put together a turning radius map, I think, Davin, if we can get that. Your professional staff asked for an exhibit showing the turning radiuses for both the small and larger buses on site. That is the exhibit being shown now. You see the smaller buses are towards the bottom of the page, on the south side, and they can make the turn and movement without conflict, as well as the larger buses to the top of the page. They as well can, we've angled the spaces, they can make those movements in and out without conflict.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Brunel.
the plan that we're looking at is the 33, including both sizes of the buses? So it's a total number of vehicles will be 33?
That is correct.
And there is a space for every one of them on the plan?
There is.
And it works without any issues? Like
That is correct.
you're not impeding the traffic flow with the parked vehicles?
That is correct.
Okay, so Mr. Chairman, I would suggest that we approve that a maximum number of 33 vehicles be a condition of approval.
And just to clarify, the breakdown for the 33 is 12 regular sized and 21 smaller, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Item F, the applicant should address parking for maintenance and bus driver employee vehicles on site.
So we have our bus parking spaces shown. We have 10 employee parking spaces striped. We have heard testimony that we have 5 employees, so we have 5 extra spaces. So as a bus driver comes to the site in their personal vehicle, they will have a spot to park in temporarily. They will move the bus out of their space, put their passenger car into that space, and leave the site. So we always have excess parking to make that operation work well.
Great. And item G, the applicant should seek relief from the lighting ordinance. No additional lighting is requested.
That's right. Again, we've provided lighting in the areas where the spaces are, but we do not meet your requirements because there are gaps on the site, and we're going to ask for that waiver.
Item H, relief should be requested from the loading ordinance. Testimony should be provided.
In this type of business, there's no need for any kind of a loading space, so we ask for that waiver.
Item I, if buses will back into the angled spaces, this turning movement should be shown on the plan.
And they want to pull in head first, and that's our exhibit we've shown.
So it's on Exhibit A?
It is.
Thank you. Item J, this application does not include a landscaping plan, but does provide additional landscaping on the site plan. This office recommends the applicant provide the trees on the proposed plan, plus an additional 12 wide-growing evergreen trees on the north side of the property line to screen the site from the abutting residential dwellings, and then seek a waiver from all other landscaping requirements. And that's what we're doing, correct?
That's what we're doing.
All right.
I think 12 trees may be much, but we certainly will work with the township professionals on that.
And basic, whatever the professionals want, the professionals will get.
Absolutely.
All right. Item K, the applicant should indicate if any safety or informational signs are proposed.
There's no additional signs proposed.
Okay. And item L, the applicant should address the pipeline buffering ordinance or seek a waiver from same if no ground disturbance is proposed. And the answer is?
We're going to get a waiver for that because no ground disturbance is proposed.
Right, so there's no reason to request a letter or a certification. There's no.
Mr. Chairman, I would ask that you make that a condition of approval so that it's easier when we're doing compliance that you don't have to provide those letters from the pipeline buffering. Okay? Thank you.
Sir, thank you, Mr. Brunel.
Item M, as a condition of approval, no work should be done on any vehicle outside of the building. And as you heard earlier, Mr. DuPont, the owner of the site indicated that he's willing to live with that as a condition on any approval if the board would be kind enough to grant it, correct?
That is correct.
And Mr. Chairman, that's my most important comment, that there be no work outside. They just park the vehicles and work on them inside, and they don't disturb the neighborhood. So that's my biggest concern, and if they agree to that, that's wonderful.
Thank you. Item N, school bus depot is an inherently beneficial use. John DuPont to demonstrate the satisfaction of the negative criteria. So we have the case law, Scholastic Bus, Inc. versus the zoning board of the Borough of Fair Lawn, in which the school bus facilities were considered inherently beneficial. But in turn, that helps us on our proofs. So let me take your hat off as the engineer and put on your hat as the planner.
Can we just get questions before we go to the planning?
Surely.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
I appreciate that, Mr.
Absolutely.
Okay. Mr. Brunel, are you satisfied with?
Mr. Chairman, I'm completely satisfied. Thank you.
That's excellent. Excellent. All right.
And
So-
before we do the planner's hat, let's keep his engineer's hat.
Yeah,
on
we'll
for
go to
one
Mr.
more
Carley's
minute.
report.
We have the DNR report.
Yes, sir.
All right, Mr. Carley's report. First, are you familiar with the report dated November 6, 2023?
I am.
Okay, is there anything within the report where you want to provide clarification or discussion?
Yes, there are a couple items. For the most part, we can comply with everything. I just want to bring 4 items to the board's attention. So 3.1 on Mr. Carley's report talks about EV charging stations. Because we're not proposing any significant changes on site and ground penetrations, we're looking for a waiver of the EV requirement. We're not looking for a waiver. We think the
It's
EV
not
is not required here because we're not building a new parking lot. That's one. 4.1 talks to lighting. And again, we are proposing some lighting, but we are going to ask for that waiver of the lighting requirement. 5.1 talks about stormwater management. We're asking for a waiver of the stormwater management. The site is almost completely impervious. We're not increasing the impervious coverage by anything, by any amount at all. So we haven't changed the volume of flow or the direction of flow. So we're asking for a waiver. And the last thing, we proposed 8.3 talks about buffering. We have proposed some buffering, again, asking for a waiver. We've done the best we can on this site, and we'll work with the professional staff. Everything else in Mr. Carter's letter, we can comply with.
Mr. Carley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. DuPont, do you anticipate that you're going to have to go to Freehold Soil Conservation District for a certification?
I would probably say we get an exemption.
Okay. Well, if you get the exemption, then that'll cover the stormwater management. But
Very good.
please do provide that if the board looks favorably upon this application as part of resolution compliance.
I certainly will.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carley. Does the board have any questions for Mr. DuPont with regard to the engineering testimony? You left him speechless. You can change hats now.
All right, let's see if we can do it again on planning.
Did I bore everybody?
All right, hats off, hats on
Here
as a
we go.
planner. We pointed out to the board that school bus maintenance facilities are an inherently beneficial use. But how about the other part of the criteria? Why is there no negative impact on the community as a result of this application?
Okay, so as we heard, and your board planner has stated in the report, that school bus maintenance and parking has been found to be inherently beneficial by the courts as long as the site is deemed to be particularly well suited. And that is in that case, Scholastic School Bus versus Zoning Board. If it's particularly well suited, it becomes inherently beneficial. Positive criteria is automatically met. So we have a fully developed existing site, almost 100% impervious, in a light industrial zone. That is bordered by the Greenway to the north, industrial sites to the south. We've demonstrated how buses can park and move around the site effectively. There is sufficient access to the site. The site is currently being used as an industrial site, and we're making some improvements, increasing the lighting and adding some fencing and screening. And it was noted and should be noted again, the site was previously used as a bus maintenance and storage company. So when the site is used for a township school system and the storage and maintenance of buses is in fact essential as an accessory to the schools, it is then deemed inherently beneficial. So positive criteria met. With respect to negative criteria, I don't see any negative impacts. Is my impact that the site is particularly well suited for proposed use? It's in an industrial area. We're increasing the buffering, increasing the landscaping. Again, some very minor, but some definitely site improvements being done, making the site aesthetically more pleasing. We feel the granting of the variance can be done without substantial detriment to the public good. The benefits of the project will substantially outweigh any detriment. And the granting of variances will not substantially impact the intent or purpose of the zone plan or zoning ordinance. So you have a site that really is conducive. It has existed like this before, making some nice quality improvements. The buses work. It's for the Township of Edison's school buses itself, inherently beneficial, and we think it's a good application.
And he summed it up for me. I don't think I have to summarize anything after that.
Okay, we'll go to the board for questions. Any board members have any questions for Mr. DuPont with regard to the planning testimony? You're 2 for 2.
That's That's good.
Okay, so we will now go out to the public. Anyone within 200 feet of the subject site wanting to be heard. If you are within 200 feet, you've received a notice via certified mail. Seeing none, anyone outside of 200 feet of the property? Seeing none.
Motion to close public session. Second.
Motion made by Vice Chairman O'Gorman, seconded by Mr. Sadato. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Public portion is now closed, and we'll go to the board.
Mr. Chair, I have a question for the applicant.
Okay, we closed the case.
All right.
Mr. Chair,
Mr.
I
Dow.
make a motion to approve this application. The applicant has met all the negative and positive criteria. The site is particularly suited for the intended use. The use is not a detriment to the public good or public safety. With the conditions that maximum 33 buses will be parked at any given time. Hours of operation are 7 to 5?
6:30 a.m.
6:30 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Correct.
And no work will be performed outside the building. This motion will incorporate all of the testimony of the applicant, attorney, planners, engineers, and members of the board, and as well as incorporation of all the conditions we discuss here.
Mr. Chair,
Vice Chairman.
I'd like to add that the applicant, since they're not disturbing the ground, they get waiver for the buffer ordinance on the ground, and that's based on also getting the approval, the exemption from freehold soil.
Mr. Chairman?
Wait, just give me 1 second, Mr. Binell. Are you seconding the motion, Vice Chairman?
Yes, second.
Okay, all right, Mr. Binell.
I'd like you also to make a condition of approval that the maximum number of vehicles that they testify to be the maximum number of vehicles.
I believe Mr. Dave put that into.
Oh,
his-
I'm sorry. I
Third
apologize if I
copy.
missed that. I'm
No,
sorry,
listen,
sir.
Better be sure.
And Chairman, should the waivers be memorialized as well in the resolution?
Right, I was,
Ms. Shah.
Or the
Yes.
granting by the TRC is enough? I don't know your procedures.
They probably should be memorialized in the resolution, so just so I understand the motion clearly, the waivers that were requested, and there were 5 of them,
Yes.
and one was for the, okay, one of the waivers was for the tree replacement waiver.
Correct.
As no trees are being removed. The other was a waiver from pipelines, as there is no construction.
Correct.
Landscaping, as you're going to work with township professionals, and there is landscaping that is being proposed with buffering, which is what the waiver was that Mr. O'Gorman put on the record. Waiver from lighting requirements. And I think the other is a waiver as to no need for the New Jersey DOT access easement, as there is no changes to the egress or ingress.
That's correct.
And the pipeline, do we get pipeline buffer? I think you said that, right?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm having a hard time or something. Tough to get old.
Tell me about it. All right, everybody good?
I second the motion.
Okay, and second, motion made by Mr. Dave, seconded by Vice Chairman O'Gorman. Roll call, please.
Mr. Chabra?
Yes to the motion.
Mr. Cerrito?
Yes on the motion.
Ms. Hernandez Prince?
Yes, on the motion.
Mr. Dave?
Yes on the motion.
Mr. Sadaha?
Yes to the motion.
Vice Chair O'Gorman?
Yes on the motion.
And Chairman Kumba?
Yes on the motion.
Thank you, Mr.
Unanimous
Chairman and members.
approval.
Have a great Thanksgiving.
Congratulations. Have a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Okay. Is there any more business to come before the board this evening?
That is all.
All right. Just before we ask for a motion to adjourn, I just want to take this opportunity just to thank our board members. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your talent. Thank you for being here. I want to thank our amazing municipal staff for all that they do. I want to thank our board professionals for sharing your time and your talent and being with us. We cannot do what we do for the public if it weren't for all of you. And personally, sitting here, thank you for getting me through this past year so far. With that, motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Sadata, seconded by Vice Chairman O'Gorman. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Happy Thanksgiving. Board stands adjourned.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thanks,
But the alternative is very grim. I like that vest. Vests are making a big comeback.